So most of it you've seen. Some things, as I say, bits and pieces sort of laying around. It looks like a bit of a mess at the moment, but inside sort of a little bit tidier. Adding a few new cables and things like that along the way. Just put a bit more light in there. I've sort of got things sort of sitting there, and what's this cable for, what's that cable for. It's more so just working through cables, and some of them I have replaced. You can probably see a black lead here, which actually originally was this size cables, are fairly heavy insulated, but I just didn't like the appeal of it. It seemed overkill for the size of the cable. So for what it was, it just looked terrible to me. To tell you the truth, that was the main reason of changing it, and it was a little bit hard. It's probably in a bit of a hot spot where it was, and a little bit of it dried out. So for the sake of the price of a cable, it was just easy to replace it. So putting these cables, hanging them up on places where they belong, and then sorting them out as I come to them and deciding, do I want to use them or not as I come to that point, because I've got a cooling fan that goes into this point here. It's probably the last cooling fan I've still got to buy. This will be a genuine Mazak part. Unfortunately, I can't find it aftermarket or non-genuine Mazak part. Most of the other stuff most of the other cooling fans that I've replaced, probably over half a dozen of them now that I've replaced, I've been able to find aftermarket, so that was been okay by chasing up part numbers, and it was a fair bit of mucking around to try and save some money, not buy a genuine Mazak part. Not a cheap one, but has to be done. That's the main cabinet fan. It's not a big fan, but it just ducts the heat out of the actual cabinet area at the end here. So as you can probably see, we're down the headstock end, as you probably say, with a manual machine. We're down the working end of the machine. You see most of that now. I don't need to show you too much about that. You've seen that a few times now. There's still the panels that go on here. Obviously, they're sitting on the floor that I've just taken off just so I can keep going. Just coming around the electrical cabinet now. There's not a lot to see there, but the cabinet, just the electrical cabinet on there. So I've replaced cooling fans in here, so these have been replaced just for the sake of it. They were working, but they were all clagged up. I suppose there's a good way to explain. I don't know any other way to explain my Aussie way of explaining things possibly, but the fans were pretty clagged up with dust and crap, the surface rust on things like that. It's pretty much a 30-year-old machine now, I suppose you could say. It's been with me for a little while, but obviously not for 30 years, but I've had it for a little while now. And not running, but obviously these fans pretty much run all the time. So these duct they duct air in through the bottom, which I've probably shown you before. So the air comes in through the bottom here, runs inside the cabinet itself, into a heat sink inside the cabinet, which you've probably already seen anyway, but powder coated, anything like that. So the panel's been powder coated like everything else. And the cooling fan's been replaced. So as I say, there's about half a dozen of those sort of fans that I've replaced. Coming around to the back side of the machine, that spaghetti I'll be able to sitting on top of the coolant tank at the moment. So it's one of the last green things to do. So that'll be the last go at my powder coater, I suppose, would be getting these parts over to my powder coater in one last lot. I'm finding there's a couple of parts gone missing, which is a bit disappointing. My fault, because I should have taken photos of the parts as I was taking to the powder coat. At the start, I wasn't really sure, to tell you the truth, what I was going to do with this machine. So some parts I might have taken earlier on, I wasn't really that organised for, because actually I was still up in the air what I was going to do with this machine. I was just going to do some random parts, but I finished up rebuilding the whole machine. So that sort of changed as I sort of worked my way through. As you can see, a few of the cables have been done, so I've just come through and, excuse me, cleaned up things. So all these terminals and things like that all been cleaned up. You can see powder coated brackets and things like that. So everything, as I love the rest of the machine, everything's either powder coated or painted. It'll be a once in a lifetime thing for this machine. I won't be doing it again. Just bringing up on top. As I say, there's still bits and pieces. So I was just sorting through it last night. I'm sort of coming out this morning now. You guys are seeing it now. So I just put this on late last night after picking up my powder coat, after doing a couple of jobs and just getting over there before closing time to pick this up. So I was a little bit late getting this on. I still have to do a bit of adjustment to get this in, because I've got the actual electrical cabinet mounted on, and this corner of the cabinet is pushing out a little bit. So I have to probably maybe either move the cabinet back or shim it up at a slightly different angle. So I don't know if this cabinet's even square or not, but it is pushing against this main section here. So I've gone through and sealed up everything, just run little beads of silicone and everything, probably overkill, but it's just to tie things in more so there's things aren't, not that there's going to be any rattling or anything like that, but I've just run through and you can probably see little strips of colour and white in places. So I've just come through and put silicone even in places where you don't need it. There's no leakage or anything, but it's just to tie parts in. You seal. I've just basically bridged the parts, I suppose. They're welded, but I've just bridged it with some sealant, so you can see like white bits of sealant around different places. The only places I haven't put is obviously in the folded corners, but any point that's joining to another sheet by welding and so forth, I've put silicone in there, so you probably see little bits of white as I'm sort of walking around the video. And these are these channels I was talking about, so they go from one end of the machine to the other. So we're down the tailstock end now, so you've got the transformer down this end, and the power supply comes in from the opposite end at the top of the screen there, into the main switch and cables and hydraulics and all those cables you've seen sitting on top of the transformer all go on there. It's just sorting out things at the moment more so. Inside the cabinet there, you've seen this sort of the last video where it had this sitting in the green colour, where the light sits in there, so that's inside that area there. It's more so just to, obviously it goes the full length of the machine, so a lot of the services, that's what this main cover does, obviously at the top of the machine, plus it's there to carry all the services through, the communications from the actual controller and power to and from the transformer and down to the actual, down to this end of the machine here. As you can probably see, I've gone through and sorted out most of it. Probably doesn't look like much at the moment, but I'll bring you back probably. There's probably not, as I've been saying in the, as I'm sort of getting into the machine shop series, there's probably not a lot to show you. Still to go with this anyway. You can sort of see it starting to come to the end of it video-wise anyway. The machine's totally not finished yet, obviously. There's still heaps to do, but to show you in a video, it's probably not a lot there left to show you.